Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a nice day. And today we're going to talk about the goat that everyone loves to refer to, right? It's always like the goat this, the goat that, if you're the greatest at something. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the goat of the medical system. Yes, the goat. And, you see the symbols in the medical system and everyone, they really have a hard time believing that it has to do with a ancient religion. A lot of Greek and Roman mythology, and all the symbolism is still there, guys. So they tell you, what power they're drawing from when everyone thinks, oh, it's just so scientific. They didn't get any type of information from any sources. Well, when you start digging into some of these terms and symbologies, you'll be surprised how many entities, too. We got Pan, like Peter Pan. There's so many entities with these horns, guys. I did a vid breaking down Belinus and the Celtic lore. He has horns too. The Celtic god Cernunnos. When you see guys out there with the hoop earrings, you don't realize that you're emulating someone. You see that? I was seeing some really, when you put in these entities, these entities are pretty perverted too. Like the weirdest things come up, but you see another representation of Sunnunos. So, this goes back to, there's a facility called CERN. A lot of people know that facility in Switzerland. Guys, look at this disgusting thing. Satyr Pan phallic mirror sculpture, Greek mythology. You can buy that at Etsy. Man, the stuff that you'll see. But like in the modern medical system, right, guys, we see Asclepius. This is not to do with the rod of Moses. A lot of people conflate the two, but a lot to do with this entity. And you see it in the optometry, dentistry, very similar to the caduceus here, which everyone is very familiar with the caduceus. Anyone in the medical field, right? So this is, we can go a little bit into Asclepius, and just the connections I made, guys, you're going to think is so interesting. So let's read on a bit, and I'll show you some of my connections. So, if you don't know, Asclepius is a hero and god of medicine in ancient Greek religion and mythology. He is the son of Apollo and Cronus, or Arisone, or of Apollo alone. Asclepius represents the healing aspect of the medical arts. His daughters are Hygeia, for hygiene, the goddess of cleanliness; Lasso, the goddess of recuperation from illness; Acaso, the goddess of the healing process; Eagle, the goddess of good health; and Panacea, the goddess of universal remedy. He has several sons as well. He was associated with the Roman Etruscan god Vetiophus and the Egyptian Imhotep. He shared with Apollo the epithet Paean, the healer. The rod of Asclepius, a snake-entwined staff similar to the caduceus, remains a symbol of medicine today. So if you're not familiar, I'm just going to put that up a little closer. That's what the caduceus is, if people don't know. Very ancient stuff. His idol statue. All these museums have a lot of this architecture. So interesting, because then when you see who was teaching these entities, the so-called knowledge they had, you start to see a lot of things making sense. And in modern medicine, they do a lot of dangerous practices, and a lot of it has to do with some of these legends and stuff that were done, okay? And not ordained by the God of all gods, but still done nonetheless, right? Because everyone thinks they can sidestep what God, what the Most High says, right? You know, there's a lot to do with like Caesareans and all that with these connections. So just saying it, this is a Greco-Roman religion, to say the least. And then I started going into a little bit about his birth and about his life. So you go into it at the birth of his mythology, and you got the name Coronis, right? Like the whole coronavirus, so funny. Asclepius was the son of Apollo, and according to the earliest accounts, a mortal woman named Coronis. When she displayed infidelity by sleeping with a mortal named Ischys, Apollo came to know this with his prophetic powers and killed Ischys. Coronis was killed by Artemis for being unfaithful to Apollo and was laid out on a funeral pyre to be consumed. But Apollo rescued the child by cutting him from Coronis's womb. Hence where we get the practice of cesarean section. According to Delphian tradition, Asclepius was born in the temple of Apollo, with Lachesis acting as a midwife and Apollo relieving the pains of Coronis. Apollo named the child after Coronis's nickname, Eagle. Phoenician tradition maintains that Asclepius was born of Apollo without any women involved. So it goes into all that stuff. Great, great. Then education and adventures, which is very interesting. Apollo named the rescued baby Asclepius and reared him for a while and taught him many things about medicine. So we already got these connections here because we all said how they worship Apollo and all these entities. And you got all the Apollo missions and whatnot. And, you know, in the New Testament, they talk about the angel of the bottomless pit that's being worshipped. Apollyon is another version of his name, or Abaddon. So, reared him for a while, taught him many things about medicine. However, like his half-brother, Aristaeus, okay, Asclepius, so these two characters had his formal education under the centaur Chiron. So we got a Chiron that popped up, who instructed him in the art of medicine. So I think that is very interesting, guys, right there already. So once you go into it with this Chiron character, I mean, another satyr entity that comes up almost makes me think of Sharon too. And so in Greek mythology, Chiron was held to be the superlative centaur among his brethren, since he was called the wisest and justest of all the centaurs. Chiron was notable throughout Greek mythology for his youth nurturing nature. His personal skills tend to match those of his foster father, Apollo, who taught the young satyr the art of medicine, herbs, music, archery, hunting, gymnastics, and prophecy, and made him rise above his beastly nature. Chiron was known for his knowledge and skill with medicine, and thus was credited with the discovery of botany and pharmacy, the science of herbs and medicine. Like satyrs, centaurs were notorious for being wild, lusty, overly indulgent drinkers and carousers, violent when intoxicated, and generally uncultured delinquents. Chiron, by contrast, was intelligent, civilized, and kind, because he was not related directly to the other centaurs due to his parentage. He was the son of the Titan Cronus, an Oceanid Philara, and thus possible brother to Dolops and Aphris, who I wanted to look up this character, guys, but it says page does not exist. You see that? Because it says the ancestor, an eponym, right? An eponym is a person, place, or thing after whom or which someone or something is or is believed to be named. So this was the so-called ancestor, and where they get the term for Afroi, or the Afrikaans. Isn't that crazy right there? So a lot of stuff going on in Africa, guys. Chiron lived predominantly on Mount Pelion. So I guess that's in northern Greece, guys. That's interesting. There he married the nymph Chariclo, who bore him 3 daughters, Hippie, oh look at the term Hippie, also known as Melanippe, meaning the black mare, or Euippe, good mare, Endius, Achiro, and one son, Charistus. A different source also stated that his wife was called Neus, while a certain Aristaeus was called his son. Like the other centaurs, Chiron was later expelled by the Lapithae, or Lapiths, interesting, from his home, but sacrifices were offered to him. See, offering sacrifices to these entities, guys, not good. Because the only sacrifices that need to be made is to the one and only, the Holy One of Israel, right? But that's what's happening. So they were being done by the Magnesians. Sounds like magnesium, huh? Until a very late period. And the family of the Charionidae in that neighborhood, who were distinguished for their knowledge of medicine, were regarded as his ancestors. So you're starting to get these deities into mixing. And you can see where a lot of this knowledge came from, but they have a lot of depictions. Guess he taught Achilles too. So a lot of these stories, guys, are more real than you can imagine, because they got the pottery. They find a lot of these manuscripts and artifacts. And this is a fresco that was found. The Education of Achilles, which I have the link open to this museum in Italy, where they found a lot. I mean, look at this bad boy. Did anybody wear clothes? I mean, what's really good? There's a lot of suspicious activity. And I showed you, and I'm going to show you some weird pictures, because these satyrs are a bunch of weirdos. Like they said, they're lusty, they're this, and they try to say this one was so different from the rest of them. I just don't know. But if you look up the Villa of the Papyri, which was an ancient Rome villa in Herculaneum. Yes, got to say these words slow, because these words will get you. In what is now Ercolano, southern Italy. It is named after its unique library of papyri, or scrolls, discovered in 1750. The villa was considered to be one of the most luxurious houses in all of Herculaneum and in the Roman world. Its luxury is shown by its exquisite architecture and by the very large number of outstanding works of art discovered, including frescoes, bronzes, and marble sculpture, which constitute the largest collection of Greek and Roman sculptures ever discovered in a single context. It was situated on the ancient coastline below the volcano Vesuvius with nothing to obstruct the view of the sea. It was perhaps owned by Julius Caesar's father-in-law, Lucius Calpurnius Piso Caesarius. In 1908, Barker suggested that Philodemus may have been the owner. Interesting. And in 79 AD, the eruption of there was an actual, I guess a volcano erupted around that time. Vesuvius covered all of Herculaneum with up to 30 meters, 98 feet of volcanic material from pyroclastic flows. Herculaneum was first excavated in the years between 1750 and 1765 by Carl Weber by means of tunnels. The villa's name derives from the discovery of its library, the only surviving library from the Greco-Roman world that exists in its entirety. It contained over 1,800 papyrus scrolls, now carbonized by the heat of the eruption, the Herculaneum Papyri. Most of the villa is still underground, but parts have been cleared of volcanic deposits. Many of the finds are displayed in the Naples National Archaeological Museum. The Getty Villa is a reproduction of the Villa of the Papyri. Very, very interesting. And they have, I've seen this sculpture before. I'm not sure if anybody has of this bust here of Scipio Africanus that was found in the villa. There was this sculpture, which was Mercury, but some identify it as Hermes, and they say it's, just interchangeable depending on the culture of the names and stuff. But even very, very interesting down here, guys, says, there's the satyr, the drunken satyr, statue of a drunken satyr from the villa. Right here, oh my, so you got all of these, and it says, statue of Ausonies from the villa. According to the 1908 publication, Buried Herculaneum by Ethel Rose Barker, there were busts of Athene, Gorgolapha, Archaistic Pallas, Archaic Apollo, head of an Amazon, Dionysus, or Plato. So these are all the characters being venerated today. Look, Homer, Alexander the Great, maybe. Look at these busts. A lot of detail in them too. And, some of the controversial ones down here, they make them real small. So you see that one, guys? You see what's going on here? You see what's going on here? What in the name? I've seen this picture before. Very disturbing picture, but goes to show you these so-called goats. When they say Tom Brady's the goat, this one's the goat. They seem pretty much to be in like a pervert too. Like if people could understand, like Peter Pan, he was luring boys away to Never Never Land. Like pedo talk. It's a lot going on there, and you see how this almost, makes you think of the book of Enoch, chapter 7, where you got the fallen angels, or these entities that were sinning against the birds and the animals and doing all these nasty things to them, right? So yeah, just will screw anything. And there's things being made today that don't look too good, right? There's children being born with tails and all of that stuff. I'm sure there's even more stuff that they found. But I just thought, this is more than what porn will give you today. This nasty bestiality. I just found this incredibly interesting, these frescoes, just showing that they did find these frescoes, that they do exist. It's not like, oh, if anybody has any doubt, that of course, that look at modern America now. Look at all the Roman architecture. In my town, I see it everywhere. The Greco-Roman architecture, the influence is evident, and you can see in the law the Roman influence. I'll have to do a law vid because I was studying a little bit of the laws, and I could see it even in the law books, the influence of Rome all in America. And definitely with these you try to tell people what's going on, they don't want to hear it. But in the book of Enoch, chapter 7, there was things going on which when you go down and see the verses, how like these entities, okay, the angels here. Well, we can start up here so it's not so confusing. Verse 1, and it happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days, that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the angels, the sons of heaven, beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, Come, let us beget for ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. Then their leader Semyaza said to them, I fear that you may perhaps be indisposed to the performance of this enterprise, and that I alone shall suffer for so grievous a crime. So they admit what they're doing is a crime against nature, a crime against the Most High. So let's just let that be known. All these perverted acts that's being done, and these entities are not good guys. But they answered him and said, We all swear, and bind ourselves by mutual execrations, that we will not change our intention, but execute our projected understanding. Then they swore all together, and all bound themselves by mutual execrations. Their whole number was 200, who descended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Armon. In some translations it says Hermon. So you go down, it goes into these, this is where these giants come in, these hybrid entities. Look at all the comic book entities, how everyone loves these creatures. And yeah, and what do they do after, they get too big, their appetites are just too enormous, it's just never enough. What do? What does verse 13 tell us? When, right here, it says, whose stature too big, these devoured all which the labor of men provided, until it became impossible to feed them. And some entities have just insatiable appetites. They don't have to be really big per se, when they turned themselves against men, look at that, in order to devour them, and began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, and fishes, to eat their flesh one after another, and to drink their blood. Then the earth reproved the unrighteousness. That's just a little, a little bit of what's going on over there. But yeah, Chiron, very interesting. So he's the one that taught these entities, how to do all this stuff. And he's the one that, was all about the cesarean section. And if you think there's nothing wrong with that, there is a lot wrong with that. Cesarean section was something that was just supposed to be implemented for life or death situations, but now it's more common. It's almost like a fad now for people to just go in and get themselves cut up, if you haven't noticed. That's really traumatizing to the baby, very traumatizing to the mother. They say there's a huge connection with cesarean births and autism and a lot of neuro degenerative issues, behavioral issues, you name it. Just look at the baby's record, their birth record. Very traumatic experience. This is a really great book. There's only one left in stock, but there's other great sources. Just wanted to show you that there's a lot of great authors that show how dangerous this practice really is and barbaric, and that the God of all gods in the Bible, when we talk about God, that's who we're talking about, the God of Moses, the God of Noah. And to have a baby is supposed to be a natural occurrence. You can be home with the midwife, but in this new reality, everything has been medicalized, even something that didn't need medical intervention. Now people think that they're going to straight up die if they don't get to the hospital. Well, how many movies or how many news stories have you seen of a wife or a woman giving birth in a taxi cab on the way to the hospital? I mean, or on the way, please. All you need is like some fresh towels or something to catch the baby. And I mean, really, there's ways that you could do it at home very easily, and you always can, call for help if you find that you're in trouble. But there's a lot of people going back to home births, doing lotus births. I mean, you'll find a lot of those vids online. But it says here in the summary, this is from Michael O'Dent. He contends, how did a magnificent rescue operation become such a common way of giving birth? And how safe is it really? Why do some countries have 10% cesarean births and some more than 50%? Why have risky procedures such as forceps deliveries not been eliminated by the C-section? What are the very first microbes meant by a cesarean-born baby? Is it easy to breastfeed after a cesarean? What do mother and baby miss out by not sharing a vaginal birth? What do we know about the long-term consequences of being born by cesarean and of giving birth by cesarean? What is the future of a civilization born by cesarean? Having been involved in half a century of the history of the cesarean, Dr. Michael O'Dent is uniquely and authoritatively equipped to deal with these vital and urgent questions. Yeah, because everyone thinks like the medical system can do no harm and that everything they're doing is hunky-dory, when no way, no way. There's a lot of, and just to show you that these entities have been really over all of these practices. And of course, cesareans command a lot more money, way more money. And we're seeing a rise. We're seeing a rise of women being pushed to do it, okay, because these witch doctors who really don't have a lot of your best interests at heart, okay, don't really need to get paid. And they don't care what it's going to do to you and your baby. I mean, this woman was coerced into an unneeded C-section after being told her baby was 13 pounds. They starved her for 24 hours and the baby was only 8 pounds. I mean, crazy story after story. It says telling a mother she should just schedule a C-section because her baby is too big is ethically questionable. Baby only weighed 7 pounds 9 ounces and now has to recover from major surgery. And so, when you think, oh, they could never do me wrong. I mean, just look at these damn snakes. They're telling you where they get their power from, okay? You got all these horned entities. And then it goes back to this interesting character. I just thought it was too funny. This, this Chiron guy. It really makes me think of Sharon. But they try to say he was more dignified than the other satyrs. Blah, blah. I don't know. I have a hard time believing all of that. I mean, a lot of different pictures. Look at this one, guys. I mean, really intense. And so he had different pupils too. Look at that, Chiron and Achilles by John Singer. But he was a teacher right here, a great healer, astrologer, and respected oracle. It says here he was originally a Thessalian god, so from that area of Greece, and before the Greek Dark Ages, I guess, when they were known as or Aeolia or Eolia. Interesting. The area appears in Homer's Odyssey. So later subsumed into the Greek pantheon as a centaur. So he was an astrologer, respected oracle. Chiron was said to be the first among centaurs, and highly revered as a teacher and tutor. Among his pupils were many culture heroes. Some of these names will be familiar to you. We just went over Asclepius, the god of modern medicine. I can't say this word. Aristaeus. I can't read today, guys. I'm so sorry. Oh man. Ajax, which they have the cleaner, right? The cleaner Ajax, which is named after him. So Aeneas, Actaeon, Caeneus, Theseus, Achilles. Interesting. Jason, also from the Argonauts, which I keep thinking of the word astronaut when I look at that Argonauts. It's so crazy. These words. Hellas, Telamon, Perseus, sometimes Hercules. Look at that. Oleus. And in one Byzantine tradition, even Dionysus. So, I mean, he got down. He was kind of like a wild thing. So, because it says Dionysus was loved by Chiron, from whom he learned chants and dances, the Bacchic rites and initiation. So if anyone knows about Bacchanalia, so yeah, party animal city. So very, very interesting. He's also connected with the story of the Argonauts. You see that? Whom he received kindly when they came to his residence on their voyage. For many of the heroes were his friends and pupils. I just find it all very fascinating because you got oh God, really gross, guys. But it just goes to show like what kind of entities they are. They're pretty nasty, right? They're pretty funky beings. I mean, you can just look at some of these pictures and it's like, damn. I mean, just gross. So you got the Peter Pan, you got, Pan's Labyrinth, great god of nature. And this is the god of the witches. If people don't think that around Yule time, like even Christmas time, I was going over how Christmas has a lot to do with the god Saturn, and a lot to do with Cernunnos and all these horned gods. And you'll see in a lot of these movies too, they love reference like the antlers. You'll see the antlers a lot. It comes up, and a lot of different depictions. So you have many types. This is a really old picture. Cernunnos. So this is the Celtic version. But yeah, I guess there's many satyrs. You get a lot of these depictions in these movies now, and so these entities are being worshipped, the Wiccans and the pagan. That's why I had to boycott these damn fake holidays, guys, because who are we really giving our energy to during this dark time of the year? And everyone's getting so woke to the so-called, the trick bags of the so-called system that we're living in, but they're still following these strange practices, right? And that's why the earth is the way it is, and then you got the swirls here. I mean, we see that in so much, and it's so reminiscent of the Baphomet, right? And if you didn't know, I mean, How many names does this statue have? This entity, I mean, have so many. Because then when you go, they have one in Detroit. I mean, they put it all over the place. So it's like welcomed, right? And that's what they're pushing in America, and that's why a lot of evil is being perpetuated, right? They show this entity without the breast, but originally, even the Pope does the two fingers up. That's why when you put the peace finger up, because he's really a tranny. Really, a lot of these entities are really, they're really a little messed up, guys. But if you see the two fingers, doesn't matter if your fingers are like this or like this, just remember, it's the same. It's like a benediction sign, like the Pope does it a lot. You can only see the medical symbol halfway. I'm trying to get it where you can see it all the way. But where the penis is, right, and you can see, if I can pull it up, that it has the upper body of a female. So a lot of these, a lot of these Maxines, we'll call it, these pokes they want to give everyone, you need to really pay attention and be careful, because the medical industry is all about transformation, and you could be getting mixed DNA from all type of sources, all type of species. A lot of strange books, a lot of even medical books reference the monkey DNA, the different types of DNA that they use to culture a lot of these so-called Maxines, we'll call them. You know what that rhymes with. But you see in the middle, there's the Asclepius sign. That's the medical symbol. Right dab in between that bad boy's legs, you got the star over the head. What do they put on the Christmas tree, guys? Don't they put a star on top of the tree? Really, when you go back into Christmas, the horns god is being revered as well. So this is, and you got with the music, and they say this is the god of the music industry, because he's all about that music, and a lot of these stories, he's leading people away. Very, very perverted type of entity, and likes to, sounds like likes to be around boys. It could be, not they call him the goat god, a lot of different depictions. I'm trying to see if there's anything else really interesting in this cards. I like looking at the old stuff, but all about that music and the great god. But they show a lot of depictions in Africa, but you know what? They're all over the world, guys. In America too, there's early pictures of American pictures of early America of this entity, in the woods or whatever. So man, they even got him in comics, I'm not surprised. But you see the ram horns right there. So that also has a lot to do with the spiral too. But just letting you know, these are the entities they get all their information from. This is very, very dangerous type of information. And Asclepius, the story, that's where he was cut out of the womb. This is where they're emulating it from. And a lot of these people are completely betrayed by the system. They say there's a lot, if you just look at children who were born naturally versus children who were born this way, no comparison, guys, with health-wise. No comparison. A lot of people, horrible experiences with it. So very, very tragic what this forbidden knowledge, right, what upholding these so-called goat men, right, these goat beasts, and trying to emulate them in our society, what that's doing to our health, what that's doing to our minds. And it's just it's listening to entities that don't want the best for us at all. Okay, and it is forbidden knowledge, I try to tell people, but it does fall on deaf ears a lot of the times. and that, these entities are very real. They have been placed on this pottery, all of this artwork. They're not going to put all this stuff down and record it the way they did if it just wasn't true. That doesn't make sense. And then why in today's world, and if you see like the medical oath, what is it? The Hippocratic Oath. They have to swear by this entity. See, Hippocratic Oath text. What does it say? But it says, I swear by the god Asclepius, I will do no harm. But if what they do is harm, that could be a zinger, right? That's the thing. But this is the modern one right here. It should give you the proper one. I had it printed out because just to show that they are under this Greek medical system. And, if anyone has any history knowledge, know that, the gods of the Greeks and the Romans were, opposed to the God of all gods. They were doing their own thing. They weren't listening. Okay. So it says, I swear, this is their, this is from the National Library of Medicine. So when people say, because I love all these so-called science freaks who are really trying to push the current agenda right now with the so-called vaccines, and they're like, oh, I'm so scientific, blah, blah. No, you're not. Because all this stuff tells you, have you ever even read the Hippocratic Oath? And it tells you that they have to swear by Apollo, the physician, and Asclepius, you see it? And Hygienia, I guess that's for hygiene, right? The goddess of hygiene, and Panacea, and all the gods and goddesses as my witnesses, that according to my ability and judgment, I will keep this oath and this contract, to hold him who taught me this art equally dear to me as my parents. And I was reading a lot about that too in the Vedas too. They look at their teacher as someone to be worshipped, as a god, as a parent. So it can get really scary in these universities and these school guys when, these teachers really try to act like your child's parents, because that is really what their religion entails, but we don't respect it as a religion because they try to hide it as a secular practice, a lot of these things, and it's not so. Okay, and they get protection, they get 501c3, they get, tax exempt status and all that. Really crazy. But I mean, it tells you right there. And isn't that where you get the term hypocrite from? Because a lot of things do go wrong. And if people don't know the term iatriogenic disease, which is a disease caused by the medical industry, you will know that there is a lot of harm being done at these institutions. Okay, so there's like a strict contract, and this is definitely their goat in the system, guys. But try not to make this long, but if you want to look it up, it's Greek medicine, and it says, I swear by Apollo, physician. And it tells you right there, the Hippocratic Oath is perhaps the most widely known of Greek medical texts. It requires a new physician to swear upon a number of healing gods that he will uphold a number of professional ethical standards. It also strongly binds the student to his teacher and the greater community of physicians with responsibilities similar to that of a family member. You see that? In fact, the creation of the oath may have marked the early stages of medical training to those outside the first families of Hippocratic medicine, the Asclepiads of Kos, by requiring strict loyalty. It says in the 21st century, it also does not, they don't explicitly contain the phrase, first do no harm. So that's probably how they get over now, right, guys? Because there's a lot of harm being done. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. Chiron, just check this out with the Pan and the Baphomet statue, all very interesting, and Pan too. And then you got Belinus too, with the horns also. So these are your goats of the medical industry. Just know that it is quite the cult. It is a religious institution. It doesn't get enough credit for being as such. And death and sacrifice is definitely the order of the day. And a lot of it is ritual mutilation, which I can get into in another topic. But even cesarean, just so you know, it is considered by Robert S. Mendelsohn. He has an amazing book. I love going into his book. This is from chapter 3, Confessions of a Medical Heretic. He was a medical doctor who's seen so much evil in the damn industry that he had to write a book about it, okay? And in chapter 3, he says a lot of what's done is just that. It's a ritual mutilation, and cesarean is on here. It says obstetricians were not long satisfied by the minor surgery of the episiotomy. They had to have something more awesome and dangerous. After all, the delivery room setting only adds to the feeling that something terribly abnormal must be happening here. And such an abnormal process surely demands medical intervention. The more extreme, the better. And since the delivery room is really an operating room disguised by the simple addition of an incubator, what really should be going on here is a full-blown operation. Hence the obstetrical sacrifice graduates beyond the simple mutilation of the episiotomy, which is considered a mutual, they mess you up in these places, guys. Home birth is the way to go. To the most sinister development of modern obstetrics, the epidemic of cesarean deliveries. Epidemic, guys. This is considered a ritual mutilation, okay? This is from the book Confessions of a Medical Heretic by Dr. Robert Mendelsohn. So let me tell you, dangerous stuff that people are doing and having extreme ramifications and not understanding it's in the name of the false gods and in their false religions. So please be careful out there, guys. Have an amazing night. Thank you so much for watching. Don't want to make this long. I started really late today. I took a bunch of naps earlier today. Definitely had to make up on some sleep, guys. But yeah, a lot of what's going on in the modern medical system is considered just that. It's considered a ritual mutilation, just to show you that, and that's why they cost so much money, and everything that we deem is so normal, guys. It's been definitely from the minds of entities, not who you think they are. So I hope this wakes a few people up to what's going on, and check out the Hippocratic Oath too, and the Pans of the world and all this stuff. Yeah, big troublemakers over here. And look at the damn Baphomet statue. It tells you everything you need to know. And of course they want the children. They're big on getting your children filled with all kind of nasties, right? And so right here, look at these. Look at this swirl. You'll see the spiral in a lot of companies too. And they'll tell you who their power is really coming from. And you see that it's been accepted in America. This is at the Arkansas Capitol. So yeah, when fire starts shooting out of the damn sky because the Most High is so mad, I hope people are not going to be surprised, like what happened in a lot of these stories and a lot of these places where they found these manuscripts around that Herculean temple or whatever. A lot of those places were destroyed by volcano eruptions, and who do you think did that? Of course, the Most High, who is against all of these practices. I mean, really, this is such an abominable image. So just think about that. During the season, these two fingers, people are putting it up also as a peace sign, and they put the star. This is the torch, as you see in the Statue of Liberty, and you're going to see them with that damn star going on top of a tree. But this is a really weird depiction too, the back of it too, like a very crude depiction of the Baphomet. Just found it to be so strange. That's just such an ugly, cursed piece of work. And of course, people actually pay money to buy that. You can actually buy little statues like this online nowadays. How disturbing. Have a great night, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.